Different. I'm sure you've had lots of entrepreneurs in here that have talked about their business stories, but I wanted to talk to you about something a little bit different, which is an entrepreneurial forum, which is a group of entrepreneurs that we set up in Las Vegas to provide support to other entrepreneurs. So I graduated from SUU in 1992, and I started my business in 1997. And you know, when you start a business, there's not a lot of people that you can rely on. You have employees, but you can't really trust them because they want more money and less work out of you. You have partners maybe, and you can't really trust them with all your deepest, darkest secrets because they want more of your business and more of the money from the company. And of course, there's investors, there's board members, but what we've done in Las Vegas is we've set up a forum, which is a group of 7 entrepreneurs in unrelated, non-competing businesses that meet once a month and act as an informal board of directors to each other. So every month we get together, we spend an afternoon. I'll talk to you about the format a little bit, but we talk about business things, sometimes personal things, but basically secrets that you wouldn't share with anybody else. And we do it in a confidential manner so that we can kind of share ideas and provide support to each other. And we've been doing it for 17 years. We first got together in 1999, and there's 7 of us in this group. So there's 3 critical parts to our forum. First, there's rules. We're all big, important entrepreneurs, and we're all the most important people in the room, so we have very strict rules for how we govern ourselves in the forum. The second secret is Gestalt, and this is a form of psychology invented by Max Wertheimer in Germany, and it is a way of communicating information based on experience rather than giving advice. And I'll talk to you guys, I'll explain that in a little more detail later. And the third secret is the retreat. We hold an annual retreat every year in September or October where we go away for a week and we spend our time learning about the local business environment, meeting with other business people and entrepreneurs, and setting our goals for the year. And then throughout the year, we hold each other accountable for the goals that we set for each other. So, entrepreneurial secrets is kind of an aside. I was up here a couple of months ago and we judged the business business competition. And I'm always amazed that entrepreneurs are, a lot of times they're afraid to share their ideas, and I just wanted to make a point that it's okay to share your ideas. If you have a neat idea for an entrepreneurial venture, talk to everybody you can about it. Nobody's going to steal your idea. Nobody wants to work that hard. We're too lazy. So my first rule is share your idea, talk to everybody you can about it, and it could help you later, later as you launch your entrepreneurial venture. The second, don't take outside money. The people that are out there to give you outside money to invest in your company are way smarter than you. They do it a lot, and you could get taken advantage of. That's my personal opinion. We started our company by bootstrapping it. We cash flowed the company by promising to pay our vendors in 35 days and getting our customers to pay us within 15 days so that it didn't take a lot of startup capital for us to get our company up and running. That goes to the next point, which is cash is all that matters. It doesn't matter how much revenue you have. It's money in the bank, cash in your pocket, whether or not you're able to pay yourself, pay your employees, and pay your vendors. Hire grown-ups. This is something I didn't realize until we had the company for about 10 years. Again, we started the company in 1997, my wife and I, and we sold it in 2012. And around 2008, 2009, we decided to start hiring grown-ups. And what I mean by that is we had, in the initial startup phases, we believed that we could hire really smart people straight out of college and grow them up with the company, teach them the company culture, and make them into the leaders we needed. After about 10 years of doing that, we said, you know what? There's some really smart people in their 50s and 60s, kind of at the end of their careers, who know what they're doing, who know the industry, who cost a lot of money, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, but it was the best decision for the company at the time to start hiring grown-ups, people who are professionals at running companies. And I think when I was young, when I was 29 or 30 starting the company, I was afraid of grown-ups because I was afraid they would, kind of take my idea, take my company, or go in a different direction. But I think, over time I came to learn that there's two very different kinds of people. There's entrepreneurs that are willing to take risks, start companies, and do crazy stuff. And then there's people that are professionals that know how to do what they do, know how to run companies, and they just want a job. They don't want to be the risk taker. So hire grown-ups to prepare for an exit. One of the best days of my life was the day that we sold the company. And by preparing for an exit, I mean setting up a management team so that when somebody buys your company, the company will still run, getting annual financials audited, running a clean company, not doing anything mischievous or illegal or crossing the line. And then when you're ready for the exit, hiring great professionals to sell your company for you. We did this twice. We hired investment bankers in 2008 to try to sell the company. The market crashed. It was a horrible time to try to sell a company, so we held back and waited a couple of years, hired some more grown-ups, and then in 2012 we hired investment bankers again, a different group, and we were able to sell the company. And I can go on about how that process works, but there is a process for selling a company that's very, detailed, and that's just kind of how it works. And then what I'm here to talk about today is how to create a support network. People that you can talk to about your entrepreneurial ideas, about your venture, that will help you grow your company and create a successful company. Brief digression, this is my wife and I. This is, whoops, pressed the wrong button. This is our company, ScriptNet. So basically it's a software company that connects pharmacies to insurance companies. So if you go to Walgreens and get a prescription filled, we were kind of the back engine where the bill would come from Walgreens to us. We would calculate how much Walgreens got paid, how much the copay was, how much the insurance company would have to pay, and then we would pay the pharmacy. So we sold the company in 2012 through a very formal process with investment bankers that charged us a lot of money, call it $1 million to sell the company, but they did a great job for us. We got 13 times EBITDA for the company. Again, we hired really smart people to do it. That was our second time trying to sell the company. Usually, investment bankers, it's kind of like when you buy or sell a house, real estate professionals, you don't have to pay anything unless they're successful at selling the company. So it was free the first time we tried to do it. It cost us $1 million the second time we tried to do it. But it was the best decision ever. And you can see us celebrating at 11 a.m. on Friday when the deal closed, when we finally got news that the money had been wired from the acquirer into our bank account. So it's lonely at the top. So again, when you're an entrepreneur, there's not a lot of people to bounce ideas off of. There's not a lot of people to talk to. There's not a lot of help that's from people that don't have an agenda. So, what we've created is, I guess, help from people that don't have an agenda, people who have your or my best interests in mind. They're not trying to make money off of you. They're not trying to take a part of your company or steal your idea. So, our forum is confidential, strict confidentiality. We meet once a month. There's 7 of us. We're all about the same age. We all own businesses or used to own businesses. It's safe. There's no judgment. It's a place where we can share our deepest, darkest feelings, thoughts, and issues, problems. I mean, we've had people present on issues from being in trouble with the IRS, to being in trouble with the FTC, to being sued by their partners, to getting a divorce. So it's a safe, confidential environment where one can share ideas, thoughts, problems, issues. It's very rule-based. We have a formal constitution, and I'll talk more about the rules a little later, but we feel it's very important to have a very strict set of rules because entrepreneurs can be really flaky. I mean, we're not used to keeping set schedules. We're always late for meetings. We're used to doing our own thing. That's what an entrepreneur is. So we had to create a set of rules to keep the 7 of us in line. And our motto is that we build better people. So that's our goal. And we've been together, again, since 1999. So the history of our organization, we didn't create this from scratch. There are organizations out there, and I'll describe 4 of them. We were an outgrowth of the Young Entrepreneurs Organization. It was originally set up for business owners under the age of 40 who own a business that grosses more than $1 million a year. So the organization is still in business. We, as the Las Vegas Forum, got sick of paying dues to a national organization and decided to leave that group and just do it on our own and reinvest the dues into ourselves. Plus, we all got to be over the age of 40, and some of us sold our businesses and didn't have a business with over $1 million in annual sales anymore. But if you're looking for resources regarding kind of what I'm talking about, the Entrepreneurs Organization is still around. I think it's a great organization. That's how we kind of set up our original forum and where we got a lot of the ideas. There are other groups. There's the Young Presidents Organization. That's for a little bit larger companies. I think you have to have 500 employees, so that's for kind of the big guys. There's the Strategic Coach, which is another organization, which is more of a learning organization where you pay them to attend seminars and learn about entrepreneurship and running a business. And then there's Tiger 21, which is, it's a group of rich people that helps them invest their money. So they get together and talk about investments. So and I'm sure, I haven't done a lot of research on this, but I'm sure there's, other groups that are geared to, the college age crowd. But you don't need a national organization. We have our own organization. We're self-governing. We do this all on our own. That's Young Presidents Organization. That's their website. That's Strategic Coach, their website. And that's Tiger 21. So, some other resources for you guys. What else? Okay, 7 members, founded in 1999. 4 of us have been together since 1999. We've added 3 others since then. We're all business owners and entrepreneurs. Again, we're very rule-based, so many members have been fired over the years. So if you're not taking it seriously or coming to the meetings or showing up on time, we ask you to leave. And we've had many, many members that have left the organization. Again, entrepreneurs can be flaky. We like to do our own thing and go in our own direction. So if you can't follow the rules of our group, we would rather not have you in our group. We're a little stale, I'll admit. The last member we added was 10 years ago. It's hard to integrate people into an organization of 7 members that have been together for 17 years. 4 of us live in Las Vegas. Over the years, 3 of us have moved away, but the members take the group so seriously that they fly in from Lake Charles, Louisiana, Orange County, California, and Reno, Nevada once a month. They fly to Las Vegas. And sometimes we'll go to their location to make it easier on them. But again, we take it very seriously. If you miss more than 2 meetings, you're out of the group. So that's why these guys choose to fly to Las Vegas every month to meet with us. Overview, monthly meetings. We usually meet on the 3rd Wednesday of every month. We skip July and August. We have a yearly retreat, usually in September. We try to go somewhere really cool. I'll get into that later. At that yearly retreat, we set our annual goals with accountability, and then every month we follow up with each other on where we are with those goals and how we're doing on them. And we have our required pre-meeting update 48 hours in advance. So 2 days before every meeting, you're required to give an update on your goals to the rest of the group so that we can be prepared for the meeting in advance. So the roles. And in the forum, there's 3 roles. There's a moderator, the guy that runs the meeting. There's a timer, the guy that keeps everybody going on time, and we're very strict about time. And there's the protocol. The person in charge of protocol, and we'll get into that a little bit, but that's basically making sure that the rules of the forum are followed at every single meeting and calling people out if they're not complying with the rules. So, Agenda, we usually meet for lunch from 12 to 2. We'll have a good speaker come in usually and talk to us about something interesting. And then we start the meeting and we go from 2 to 6, and then we have dinner. And during the meeting, we have a one-word opening where we go around the room and everybody says one word for how they're feeling. So, you know, we could start with, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling excited, just to kind of to settle everybody down and get them into the right frame of mind for the meeting. Then we go over kind of the agenda, what's going to go on with the meeting, what's going to go on with the rest of the year. Then we have our updates. So each person gets 10 minutes to discuss where they are with their goals. And we usually separate the goals into personal, family, and business goals. And they can be anything. They can be, I want to lose weight, I want to quit smoking, I want to grow my EBITDA by 20% this year, I want to start a new venture, I want to add a partner, I want to fire a partner. So it can run the gamut. The members make up their own rules and present to the group on every month where they're at on the goals. And then the real meat of the meeting is the presentation, and this is where I talked about where one of the members will present usually a business issue to the rest of the group. And this is where we kind of act as an informal board of directors to the group. So, you know, it could be, I need to fire my CFO, or I need to hire a chief operating officer, or I'm thinking about bringing in outside investors. So for 10 minutes, one member of the group presents on this issue, whatever it is, and just kind of describes it. And they're usually very well prepared. They'll have either a PowerPoint or a flip chart or some slides so that we can all understand the issue. We then have 10 minutes where the group is able to ask the presenter questions to clarify what exactly is going on, what the person hopes to get out of the presentation. And then for the next 20 minutes, the rest of the 6 members of the forum get to share experiences. And this is where Gestalt comes in, which I was talking about a little bit earlier. And I'll explain that a little better. But basically, Gestalt is a method of communicating where you share experiences rather than giving advice. Because, again, entrepreneurs are crazy. We don't listen to anybody. If you said to me, oh, you should just fire your CFO, or you shouldn't take that money from those investors, it would probably make no difference to me. I wouldn't listen. I wouldn't take your advice. So all of our, what would normally be advice giving is experience sharing. So I'll talk about that in a second. Then we have a one-word closing, same as at the beginning, and then we usually go to dinner together. So that's the agenda of our once monthly meetings. Rules: mandatory attendance. If you miss more than 2 meetings, you're out. If you're late, you're fined $5 a minute. If your phone rings during the meeting, it's a $50 fine. If you don't have your update in 2 days in advance, it's a $200 fine. And we're very strict about that, and a lot of money gets put into the kitty because of these rules, and we just take it seriously, and it's cash at the meeting when you're fined. And then we have side bets, which are a lot of fun. One of our guys was getting married and he wanted to lose 15 pounds, so another guy bet him $5,000 that he couldn't do it, and he lost $5,000 because he couldn't do it. Smoking. We helped one guy quit smoking. It took him 3 times. He lost about $3,000 in 3 different bets, but eventually he quit smoking, and he hasn't smoked in 4 years, so we're proud of that. So, and one of the most important rules that we have is there's no doing business together. This is to eliminate that conflict of interest. So I've had experience with a lot of other forums, and I think the number one cause of forums disintegrating is a couple of the really smart entrepreneurs will say, hey, we're so smart, let's get together and do business together and start a business. And when it falls apart, the forum usually falls apart as well. So we have a strict rule against doing business together. So if 2 of the guys or the members want to do business together, one of them has to leave. And then, of course, no competing businesses, because again, in order to ensure the free and honest sharing of ideas and thoughts, you can't be in a competing business. Those are the big rules. Again, everyone is the most important person in the room, as entrepreneurs tend to have big egos and think they're a big shot. In our group, everybody's equal, everybody's the same. Again, no doing business together, mutual respect, absolute confidentiality. Mutual respect is basically, we're trying to keep create a safe space for people to share their most pressing business problems. So my example of the one member who got in trouble with the IRS, that's a big deal. You could be kind of judgy about that towards that person, but we're here to support each other and to help each other and respect each other. So we can't be judgy. And again, absolute confidentiality. Everything that we say and do is absolutely a secret. And that extends among the forum after the meeting. So there's absolute confidentiality during the meeting, but then after, we're not allowed to say, oh, can you believe Joe had that problem with his investors? I can't believe that either. We don't talk about what's talked about in the meeting, even amongst ourselves after the meeting. And then, again, no advice is given. So when somebody presents a business problem, we don't say, you should do this, you should do that, or I would do this, or I would do that. Everything is gestalt, which means you can only share experience and then allow the person who's seeking solution to a problem to come up with their own solution, because we're all smart people here and we all can figure out how one solved a similar problem without being told what to do. Entrepreneurs don't like to be told what to do. Again, advice is you should. Gestalt is I had a similar experience. This is what I did, and this is how it turned out, for better or for worse. They don't always have to have good outcomes. It can just be this is what happened, and this is what the resolution was. So here's two examples. Okay. Example one, I hate my chief financial officer. He's doing a horrible job. He's stealing money from me under the table. Advice would be fire him. You should fire your CFO and you should do it now. That goes, for a lot of people, goes in one ear and out the other because, again, we're entrepreneurs. We're used to running our own world. We're not used to having people tell us what to do. Gestalt would be, I once had a CFO that wasn't working out. I hired a headhunter to find a replacement. I terminated the former CFO, gave them a nice exit bonus and a no-compete. I hired another one, and then my business grew by 20%. I mean, that would be an example of sharing an experience rather than giving it advice. Try to think of another example. If you're failing calculus, you should study more, or you should drop the class. I mean, that's easy, right? Anyone can spout off like what you should do or what you shouldn't do. Gestalt requires you to come up with an experience from your own life, describe it, and let the person come up with their own solution to the problem and think through the problem on their own terms. So, again, I was struggling in accounting. I met with a peer tutor for 3 months and I was able to pull a B out of the class. So that's an example of the Gestalt way of thinking and the way that we run our meetings. Okay, so that's the meeting. I hope that's kind of clear. That's what we do every month, and that's how we act as an informal board of directors. One of the most fun things about the group is our annual retreat, and we have 3 objectives in the annual retreat. The most important one is setting the goals for the year. So, we think this is important because it keeps people on track for the next 12 months and hopefully helps make their businesses better, their lives better, and their families better. The next thing we do is we try to go somewhere really cool and learn about the local business environment, what it's like to do business in different places, and connect with the business people in those different areas and the entrepreneurs, and learn about being an entrepreneur in different parts of the world. And then the third objective, of course, is to have fun. Our first retreat, we were poor. We were 28 years old. We went to Zion National Park and went camping. So that was it. Last month we went to Moscow and spent a week there. So The retreats have gotten more complicated and exciting over the years, and I'll give you some examples of that. And again, if you miss a retreat, you're out of the group. So one thing I didn't mention is every December we sit down for kind of an extended forum meeting and we plan out the year. We plan out every single meeting for the entire year as well as the dates of the retreat so that people can schedule their time around it. So there's no excuse for not showing up. And if an emergency comes up and you have to miss a meeting, you can move it if you get everybody, all the other members to agree to move it. So. For the retreat, usually two of the members plan logistics, the agenda for the meeting, where we're going to go, what we're going to do. We keep it a secret. We call this, we have a word for this, we call it monkey on the moon. So we don't tell the members, we'll tell them where they're going, but we won't give them any indication of what they're doing because, again, entrepreneurs love to run things. So when we say, oh, we're going to go drive tanks in Moscow, two of the guys inevitably will say, I don't want to do that, that doesn't sound like fun, blah, blah, blah. So we don't tell anyone anything. All we do is say, you're showing up here on this date and you're going to go home on this date. So that keeps people from complaining. And then two members plan educational and goal setting. So wherever we are in the world, we'll have a conference room and we'll sit there for 3 hours every day, setting our goals and going through what we're going to be doing for the rest of the year. So, fun stuff. London. What did we learn in London? It's a safe place to park your money. The real estate market is way overheated right now because Russians are afraid that Vladimir Putin is going to take their money. If you're an oligarch, if you're a rich guy in Moscow, you buy property in London. We also went to the Lotus Car Driving Academy, got lessons on how to drive cars really fast. We toured their production facility and learned about how to manufacture cars. That was one retreat. Key West. We went to Key West and we learned about this crazy guy named Mel Fisher who in the 50s went to Spain and he started researching all of the Spanish galleons that had gone down 400 years ago. And he found one that interested him, which was the Atocha, and he found out kind of where it went down in the Caribbean, and he spent 16 years of his life looking for this Spanish galleon, and he found it. And since then, they've brought up $350 million worth of treasure from the, whoops, I did that again, from the Atocha, and they're still mining that Spanish galleon at the bottom of the Caribbean. So, and he's since died. He passed the business on to his kids, and his kids have made an incredible business out of it. They have a museum in Key West. If you want to pay to go help look for the treasure, you can scuba dive down there and look for the treasure. And every year they have a big party where his investors divvy up the treasure that they found for the year. And they're pulling up, they think there's $1 billion more worth of treasure under the ocean that they're going to dig up. So we got to learn about that. Reykjavik was fascinating. I don't know if you guys know that in 2007, the Icelandic economy crashed in a big way. There's 330,000 people that live in Iceland. They had three main banks that were supporting these three banks, much like our FDIC, except we have 330 million people. So they had 330,000 people. They were loaning money to people from all over the world at crazy interest rates, 13, 14% to people in Britain and France and all over the place. So we hired, keep pressing the wrong button. We hired this guy, Oscar Johnson, who was the chief economist for Kaupthing Bank, which was one of the three banks that failed in Iceland. And he wrote this book, Why Iceland? We tracked him down. We paid him cash to sit down at the University of Reykjavik and talk to us for 3 hours about what the hell happened. How did this country melt down and screw up in such a big way, and you know, the poor guy's life was ruined. He was beaten up twice in the streets of Reykjavik by pissed off Icelanders who had lost their life savings because of, you know, what he did and what other people in his position did. But that was fascinating. What else did we do? Panama City. We went to Panama City, and those are condos that rich people from Central and South America buy to park their money in a safe place. And just like we saw with London, Panama City is kind of a safe haven for people who live in unstable countries. And one of the things that fascinates me is how the laws of a country or a state can make all the difference in the economy. I mean, why does Las Vegas get 40 million tourists a year? Well, we legalized gambling and people like to gamble. But there's really fundamentally no difference between Las Vegas and St. George. It's kind of the same geography. It's just we have different laws. Panama, because of the Panama Canal and because the United States has two giant oceans that it wants to protect, we'll never let anything bad happen to Panama. So people in volatile countries like Venezuela or Guatemala who have money park their money in Panama because they believe it's safe. They also park it in Miami, but Panama is one of the big places. We also got to go on board a U.S. naval destroyer, and the captain gave us a tour and talked to us about how he's smuggled into the United States and how he shoots at submarines that come out of Colombia. They're smuggling cocaine into the U.S. So that was fascinating. This was pre-Panama Papers coming out and all that, so we met with a bank and we met with a couple of law firms to find out how people hide their money in Panama, which was kind of fascinating and happened before all the everything came out, which it ultimately did. Shanghai. So last year we went to Shanghai. That's on my birthday. This is Pudong. If you guys have been to Shanghai 30 years ago, this was rice paddies. Now that's the second tallest building in the world, and the Chinese built it. They brought 500 million people out of poverty in a very short period of time. One of our guys does some manufacturing in China, so we toured 5 different factories to kind of dig into what's China doing? What is all this talk about China importing, all of these things into the U.S. and undercutting the United States? And it was really fascinating because this factory, not only does it produce a product for one of my guys, it produces those jazzy scooters that you see people riding around in at Walmart, the motorized wheelchairs, but the owner of the factory not only was producing these scooters for pride, but he was, at the same time, stealing their ideas and making a better version that he was going to sell direct. So, it was a real eye-opener for us to see that, there's ways not to do business in China. I have one more example on that. I know a lot of you are LDS and don't drink, but we ordered Bloody Marys one morning, and we explained to the bartender what a Bloody Mary is. It's very simple. You take tomato juice, vodka, ice, some Tabasco, and some pepper. You mix it all together, and that's a Bloody Mary. And what they came out with was this, which is where they put 2 tomatoes in a blender, poured it into 2 glasses, gave us 2 glasses of ice, 2 shots of vodka, some Tabasco, and pepper, and that's what they thought was a Bloody Mary. It was horrible. That really illustrated, that really sums up for me like how hard it is to do manufacturing in China, because you can explain exactly what you want and they will take you exactly literally at your word for what you want. So that was terrible. And then we went to Moscow last month. Moscow was fascinating. We met with a lot of business leaders. We met with the Directors Discussion Group, which is a kind of a forum-like group in Moscow. One of my classmates at the London School of Economics runs TASS. That's a bad picture, but TASS is the Russian government-owned news agency. So we spent 2 hours with him getting a tour of their facility and having him try to convince us that the Russian government really doesn't engage in propaganda, then that they have a fully free and fair press. So that was fun to talk to him. What we learned from the entrepreneurs is that entrepreneur to their parents' generation, to my parents' generation, is a bad word. If you were an entrepreneur during the communist era, you were a criminal. And so now they're trying to create incubators, and Putin has put $150 million into a fund to encourage entrepreneurship. But it's still a big challenge. You know, one of my Russian friends was saying that, you know, 20 years ago, if you asked this class, you know, who wants to work for the government, everyone would raise their hand, and maybe one person would say they wanted to be an entrepreneur. Now, if you ask the same class, about a third will say they want to work for the government, a third will say they want to work for one of the big oligarchs, and about a third will say that they want to be entrepreneurs. So it's fascinating to see how fast things are changing in Moscow. They were excited about the opportunity for Trump to be elected because they thought that was the only way that sanctions would be lifted and that things would change. And a lot of them weren't that unhappy with the sanctions. They, one of them used the example of, you know, I own a pizza parlor and we could only get good quality mozzarella from Germany before, but now with the sanctions, the level of competition has risen within Russia so that we can now source mozzarella cheese locally, and it's helping our own homegrown businesses become better because now we don't have to compete with the Western Europeans. So, again, retreats, learning about the local business environment, having fun, driving around in tanks, and then the annual goal setting is the most important thing. Business, family, personal, and then every month holding each other accountable for the goals. Entrepreneurial secrets again, share your ideas. Don't be afraid to talk to everyone who will listen about your idea. Nobody's going to steal your idea. It's too hard to implement. You know, an entrepreneur, you got to have a good idea, and everybody has great ideas, but the implementation, learning how to bob and weave when trouble comes your way, that's what really makes you successful. It's not the idea. Don't take outside money unless you have to. Hire grown-ups when you can afford them. Cash is all that matters, so you don't go out of business. Set yourself up for an exit. And you know, setting yourself up for an exit, I don't know. There's different ideas. Like my wife and I ran our business together, and we didn't want to create a dynasty that we would pass on to our kids, where they would feel obligated to step into the family business and run it for forever and ever and ever. Some people want to do that. We didn't. We always planned on selling the business and walking out with a briefcase full of money and leaving it to somebody else. So, and then again, what I've been talking about the whole time is create a support network, a group of people that you can just sit with and bounce ideas off of, and talk about things in a confidential, safe manner. Rules, Gestalt, and retreat. Those are the secrets. So, good luck and have fun. I'll take any questions. I think we got 5 minutes, right? So, go.
Two things. One, do your spouses or significant others get to go on the retreats with you?
No, they don't. And we experimented with having a spousal retreat, but a spousal either retreat or a spousal forum, an equivalency, and it didn't really work because, and to digress a little bit, we're really close, the people in the forum, but we're not like friends. Like we don't have barbecues at each other's houses. This is more of a once a month we do this thing and this is our thing, so we're not, it's not like a social club. So, and I think the conflict with the spousal thing is sometimes the secrets that we share in forum are so confidential and sensitive that it had made it awkward when the spouses get together, right? Like, you know, when the one guy's talking about getting a divorce and then you're at a barbecue with his spouse, it's like, geez. So yeah, so we've minimized a lot of our friendship and interaction outside of the forum and kept it to just this once monthly thing plus the retreat. But some forums that I know of have created spousal forums. I haven't really seen them be successful. And we've talked about, one of our guys is Australian, so we've talked about doing a retreat in Australia, and I think for that one we might bring spouses just because it's so far. I think since we've been together for so long, our spouses are kind of used to us going away for a week and doing our thing, you know? At first it was hard to say, okay, I'm gonna go away. They would say, oh, you're just gonna go goof off and have fun with your buddies, but I think now they've come to the realization that it's a real thing. And it's all guys in our group. There's no females in the group, and I don't know how that would work if there's no rule against it, but it's so hard to integrate. I mean, we're at 7 members now, and again, 3 of us don't live in Las Vegas, so we're trying to add members, but it's hard to integrate somebody into a thing that's been going on for 17 years. You know, where the newest guy has been in for 10 years. So, good question, though. Thank you.
Well, my wife, so we started a group based actually off of downtown Las Vegas and what they've created with Tony Shea, and they call them jellies. And we're not nearly as structured as what you have, but it's here in the community. And so if anybody here in the class is interested in coming, we actually have it scheduled. Our monthly meeting is actually this Thursday.
Oh, cool.
We call ourselves the Cedar City Thinkubator.
That's great.
And once again, a lot looser. You know, they call it the jelly out of Vegas because it's jelly's, you know, firm enough to have structure, but loose enough to be creative, you know. And definitely a starting point that can lead into a much more structured, you know, forum, summit, whatever you want to call these, you know, that you do, and those types of things that happen. So if anybody's interested to get on the email list, I'd love to invite you. It's open to definitely anybody in the community. So I appreciate that. And my wife always calls it my nerd group, which I think is, even if I did this type of retreat, I don't think she'd want to come just because she loves me and she supports me and I love her and I support her, but she just doesn't have the same mind and mentality. Like doing those things as an entrepreneur is so exciting to me, and going to tour a manufacturing plant is exciting to me, and she'd be like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. That's why I was curious if your wives were also that same mindset.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Dennis,
Yeah, sure.
how much would you attribute your success, and maybe even talk about the successes you've seen among these other 6? How much of it do you attribute to the forum and the kind of advice you've got to others?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of it, more than half. I mean, and it's not always the good advice, it's the mistakes that I've seen people make. I mean, with this confidential environment, you know, the famous example is the guy who comes in and says, hey, great news, guys, I just brought on a partner. And then a year later, it's like, oh, guys, I got to get rid of this partner. I mean, like, there's little things like that I've learned, that I've picked up from the other guys, like never have a partner. Never share equity with anybody. So, yeah, there's been a lot. And then, you know, while we don't give advice, and it's all based on Gestalt, there's also, you know, if you're looking for an accountant you can trust, or a banker you can trust, or somebody like that, it's helpful to have a group like this who's, you know, maybe had a bad experience or a good experience with a vendor, or an attorney or anything. So I wouldn't have made it without this group, because, you know, again, when you're running a business, you're kind of on your own. You know, you've got employees, maybe you have shareholders, and then you have customers, and they all want a piece of you. And with these guys, they don't want a piece of me. It's all free and fair.
One more question.
Sure.
Could you talk a little bit more about how you started it and like how you got to be where you're at now, I guess?
With the forum?
Yeah.
So we started by joining the Young Entrepreneurs Organization in 1999. They started a chapter in Las Vegas. It started out around 10 members, and it grew to about 100. Their model is the forum-based model, so they stuck us all in forums of about 7 to 10 people, and we were part of that for 5 or 6 years until, you know, a lot of us started becoming over the age of 40, and we didn't qualify for the Young Entrepreneurs Organization, so we said, you know what, we're paying these guys, I can't remember what the dues were, $1,500 a year or something, let's pay ourselves that and run this on our own. So that's kind of how it started. And we, you know, stole a lot of their ideas, like our Constitution was based on their Constitution. And so, yeah, we started with an organized national group and then kind of went off on our own. So that's how we did it.
Okay,
Thank you.
I would like to
Oh, thank you.
give you a little token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much.
For participating in the entrepreneurship.
Oh, I really
speaker
appreciate
series.
it. That's so nice. Thank you so
Let's
much.
give Jennifer-